is a divine order in this universe, a perfect, loving force that sees everything, even the pain you've carried in silence. When someone mistreats you, deceives you, or wounds your spirit, you may wonder, do they ever face consequences? You may ask, does God see my suffering? And the answer is yes. You do not need to seek revenge or carry resentment in your heart. When you trust in the divine, you understand that justice is not your burden to bear. It is already being taken care of. The universe corrects what is out of alignment, and no action goes unseen. Here are 7 signs that God is already dealing with those who hurt you. When someone chooses to harm, deceive, or betray another, they are not just hurting their target, they are disturbing the very fabric of their own being. You see, the universe operates on a simple yet profound principle. What we send out into the world must return to us in some way. No one escapes their own energy. It lingers, follows them, and eventually settles within them. When someone intentionally causes harm, they may not feel the weight of their actions immediately. In fact, some people walk away from their wrongdoing with a sense of satisfaction, believing they have won, believing they have succeeded in taking something from another. But this illusion is temporary. Beneath the surface, something begins to shift. There is a disruption, a restlessness in their spirit that they cannot quite explain. It may not be loud at first. It may whisper, it may come in quiet moments when they are alone with their thoughts. But it is there. At first they may try to ignore it. They distract themselves with entertainment, with relationships, with work, with anything that keeps them from sitting still long enough to feel the truth pressing in on them. But avoidance does not bring peace. And over time, the weight of their own actions begins to settle in their subconscious. Their mind races at night, they toss and turn, their sleep is no longer restful. They wake up feeling heavy, drained, even if they don't understand why. And this is just the beginning. That deep unease manifests in different ways. Maybe they become irritable, snapping at others for no reason. Maybe they start to feel anxious, as though something is always just slightly off in their world. Even when they seem to be enjoying themselves, there is a lingering shadow over their happiness. They try to convince themselves that they are fine, that they did what they had to do, but inside, their peace is fractured. You see, a person cannot act with cruelty and expect to walk away untouched. The universe does not work that way. When you harm another, you create a ripple effect that does not just stop with them, it comes back around in ways you do not expect. For some, this disruption of inner peace turns into paranoia. They begin to fear that what they have done to others will be done to them. They start questioning people's motives, distrusting even those who mean them no harm. They may look over their shoulder, wondering if karma is catching up to them. This is because deep down they know, on a soul level, they have set something in motion that must return. For others, the consequences show up as emptiness. They may have everything they thought they wanted, the success, the admiration, the comfort, but somehow it does not feel fulfilling anymore. There is a void that no amount of external success can fill. They may try to chase new pleasures, new distractions, new victories, but no matter how much they achieve, something feels missing. That missing piece is peace itself. True peace cannot coexist with wrongdoing. True peace comes from living in harmony with love, honesty, and kindness. A person who has intentionally hurt another has stepped out of alignment with these things, and the cost is their own well-being. Some people may recognize this and attempt to make amends. They may try to reach out, to apologize, to seek forgiveness, not because they necessarily care about the person they hurt, but because they are desperate to quiet the storm inside of them. And yet peace is not restored by words alone. It requires deep inner change, true accountability, and a willingness to grow. For those who refuse to acknowledge their actions, their suffering continues. They may pretend that they are unaffected, that life goes on as usual, but deep inside they know something is off. They may feel moments of guilt creeping in when they least expect it, a random thought, a passing memory, a conversation that reminds them of what they have done, and suddenly the discomfort is back. And this is why you, the one who is hurt, do not need to seek revenge. You do not need to worry about whether they will ever feel the weight of their actions, because they already do. Whether they show it or not, whether they admit it or not, the disruption of their inner peace has already begun. This is the way divine justice works. It does not always come in obvious ways, and it does not always come immediately, but it is always present. No one escapes the consequences of the energy they create. And while they struggle with the weight of their own choices, your focus should not be on their suffering, it should be on your healing. Because the greatest revenge is not in watching them crumble. It is in rising so high that their actions no longer affect you. It is in reclaiming your peace while they lose theirs. It is in knowing that you are free while they remain trapped in the energy they created. So let go, release the need to see their downfall, trust that everything is unfolding exactly as it should, and most importantly, protect your own inner peace, because that is where true power lies. When someone mistreats you, they may walk away feeling as if they have won. They may believe that their actions had no consequences, that life will go on just as it always has, and that they are free from any repercussions. But what they fail to understand is that the energy they put out into the world does not disappear. It lingers, it grows, and eventually it comes back to them. One of the most common ways this happens is through their relationship. A person who operates from a place of dishonesty, cruelty, or selfishness does not reserve these traits for just one person. They carry them in every interaction, every connection, every relationship they form. Even if it seems like they have moved on easily, as if life is giving them new opportunities, as if they are thriving, beneath the surface cracks are forming. At first they may not notice it. They may still be surrounded by people who admire them, who believe in their charm, their charisma, or their influence. But energy does not lie, and over time their true nature begins to reveal itself. For some, this manifests in their romantic relationships. If they betrayed your trust, deceived you, or walked away from you without remorse, that same energy will find its way into their next relationship. They may have believed they could simply replace you, that they could move on without consequence, but relationships built on dishonesty never last. Either they will repeat the same toxic patterns, or they will find themselves with someone who mirrors their own behavior. Someone who lies to them, someone who takes them for granted, someone who leaves them feeling the same pain they once inflicted. For others, their friendships begin to suffer. The people who once stood by them may start to notice the inconsistencies, the selfishness, the lack of integrity. Maybe they begin to hear stories about what this person has done to others. Maybe they experience it firsthand. Whatever the case, they start to distance themselves, because people do not stay close to someone they cannot trust. Even within their families, tension may begin to rise. They may find themselves in more arguments, more misunderstandings, more situations where they feel isolated. The very people they once relied on may no longer feel safe around them. And then the loneliness sets in. A person who harms others may believe they are winning in the moment, but over time, they begin to realize that something is missing. They may have people around them, but the connections are shallow. The relationships lack depth, trust, and authenticity. Because when you break the trust of one person, you create an energy that follows you into every interaction. They may try to ignore it. They may convince themselves that it is just a coincidence, that other people are the problem, that they are simply misunderstood. But deep down, they know. They know that they have pushed people away. They know that they have burned bridges. They know that something feels off, even if they cannot quite put it into words. And for many, this is where regret begins to creep in. When they see the love they once had slipping away, when they realize that they no longer have the same support, when they notice that the people they once took for granted are no longer there, they begin to feel the weight of their actions. Some may try to make amends, reaching out, apologizing, trying to rebuild what they destroyed. But often it is too late. Because people remember how they were treated. And once trust is broken, it is not easily restored. And so they find themselves surrounded by emptiness. They may have once been surrounded by admirers, but admiration fades when the truth comes to light. They may have once been able to manipulate situations, but manipulation loses its power when people begin to see the patterns. This is not revenge, this is not punishment, this is simply the law of the universe at work. What you put into the world must come back to you. If you sow love, kindness, and honesty, you will receive relationships filled with warmth and trust. But if you sow deceit, selfishness, and betrayal, you will find yourself surrounded by people who either reflect those qualities back to you or leave you entirely. This is why you do not need to seek revenge. The universe is already handling it. Their relationships will begin to struggle, not because you wished it upon them, but because they created the energy that made it inevitable. And while they deal with the consequences of their actions, your job is to heal, to grow, to surround yourself with people who value and respect you. Because while they are losing relationships, you are building better ones. Let them face the reality they created. And you keep moving forward. When someone hurts you, they may believe they have moved on without consequence. They may carry on as if nothing happened, acting as if their actions were justified or insignificant. But life has a way of balancing the scales. The energy they put out into the world does not disappear, it follows them, shaping their experiences in ways they never expected. One of the clearest signs that divine justice is at work is when doors begin to close for them. At first, it may seem like everything is fine. They may continue living as if they are untouchable, chasing success, forming new relationships, and making plans for their future. But then, slowly, things start to shift. Opportunities they once took for granted slip through their fingers, plans fall apart, the ease with which they once moved through life begins to fade, and frustration starts to set in. What once worked for them no longer does. Maybe it's a career that seemed promising, but now they struggle to advance. The people who once opened doors for them no longer seem interested in helping. A business venture that once thrived suddenly faces setbacks. The favor they once had with others starts to dwindle. They may try to force things to happen, pushing harder, manipulating situations, using the same tactics they used in the past. But no matter what they do, they hit roadblocks. The same charm or influence that once carried them forward is no longer enough. It's as if an invisible force is working against them, stopping them from moving ahead. For some, this shows up in their personal life. Relationships they thought were solid begin to unravel. They may seek out new friendships or romantic partners, only to find that people don't stay. They may try to repair old connections, but the trust is no longer there. The very doors that once led to comfort, support, and companionship are now locked. For others, their financial situation begins to suffer. If they built success on dishonest foundations, if they mistreated others on their way up, if they took what wasn't theirs to take, then life will find a way to balance it. Deals will fall through, clients will leave, money will dry up. The career they relied on will feel uncertain. They may feel lost, confused, wondering why things aren't working anymore, but deep down, they know, because every action has a consequence. The way they treated others created an energy that now returns to them. When someone mistreats you, they may believe that they can walk away without consequence. They may act as if their actions had no weight, no impact, and no meaning beyond the moment. But the universe does not forget. Energy does not simply disappear. It moves, it multiplies, and it finds its way back to where it began. One of the clearest signs that someone is facing the consequences of their actions is when they start to struggle with unexpected setbacks. At first, they may not notice it. Life may continue as usual, and they may even seem to be thriving. They may still be smiling, still carrying on with their plans, still chasing their ambitions. But then, slowly, things begin to shift. It starts with small disruptions, an opportunity falling through, a plan not working out, a minor inconvenience that sets them back. They brush it off, thinking it's just a temporary obstacle. But the setbacks keep coming. What once seemed effortless now becomes a struggle. The job they once excelled at suddenly feels uncertain. Their business starts to decline. The people who once supported them are no longer around. No matter what they do, nothing seems to go their way. They may try to push forward, believing they can outwork or outmaneuver the challenges, but every time they take a step forward, something pulls them 2 steps back. It's as if an unseen force is blocking their progress, as if the very doors they used to walk through with ease are now locked. For some, these setbacks come in the form of financial difficulties. The money they once relied on is no longer steady, debts start piling up, expenses they didn't anticipate suddenly appear, they find themselves struggling to maintain the lifestyle they once took for granted. For others, it comes in the form of personal challenges. Health issues arise, seemingly out of nowhere. Relationships they depended on begin to fracture. They feel isolated, unsupported, and confused. They look around and realize that the stability they once had is slipping through their fingers. And then comes the frustration. They may not understand why this is happening. They may feel angry, blaming the world, blaming others, blaming circumstances. But deep down, they know. They know that the energy they once put out is returning to them. The harm they caused, the pain they inflicted, the selfish choices they made, they are now experiencing the weight of those actions. This is not about revenge. This is not about punishment. This is simply how the universe restores balance. When you operate from a place of love, integrity, and kindness, life responds by opening doors, creating opportunities, and surrounding you with support. But when you move through life with dishonesty, manipulation, and selfishness, you create resistance. You push against the natural flow of abundance, and in doing so, you set yourself up for struggle. These setbacks serve as lessons. They are an opportunity for reflection, for growth, for change. But not everyone will be willing to see the lesson. Some will continue to fight against it, refusing to take responsibility, believing they are just victims of bad luck. They will keep trying to force things to work, growing more frustrated as every effort leads to another roadblock. But those who are truly ready to change will see the truth. They will recognize that their actions led them to this moment. And if they are willing to take accountability, to make amends, to shift their energy, they may begin to rebuild. Meanwhile, your job is not to wait for their downfall. It is not your responsibility to track their karma or hope for their struggle. Your job is to heal, to rise, to move forward without looking back. Because while they are dealing with setbacks, you are stepping into alignment. While they are facing resistance, you are finding flow. While they are struggling with the energy they created, you are receiving the blessings that were always meant for you. So trust in the process. Know that life has a way of handling what needs to be handled. Let go of resentment and focus on your own journey. Because while they are struggling, you are thriving. There comes a time when a person who has hurt others is forced to face themselves. They may have spent years justifying their actions, convincing themselves that they were right, that they did nothing wrong, or that they were simply doing what they had to do. But life has a way of stripping away illusions, of making people see the truth about who they are and what they have done. At first, they may resist it. When things start going wrong in their life, when relationships crumble, opportunities disappear, and unexpected setbacks arise, they may blame everyone but themselves. They may tell themselves that they are unlucky, that life is unfair, or that other people are the problem. They may create elaborate stories to avoid responsibility, painting themselves as the victim rather than the cause of their own suffering. But the truth has a way of revealing itself, no matter how deeply someone tries to bury it. It often begins in quiet moments, when there is no one left to impress, no one left to blame, and no distractions to hide behind. It happens when they are alone with their thoughts, when they are forced to reflect on why their life is not working the way it once did. The voices of the past begin to echo, the things they said, the people they hurt, the bridges they burned. They start to remember the times when they could have acted differently, when they could have chosen kindness instead of cruelty, honesty instead of deception, love instead of selfishness. There comes a moment when the people who once hurt you realize they no longer have control over you. This is a moment they never saw coming, because for so long they believed they could manipulate your emotions, dictate your actions, and pull you back whenever they pleased. They thought their words could still sway you, that their presence could still shake you, and that their absence would still haunt you. But something has changed. You have changed. At first, they may not notice it. They may reach out casually, expecting the same version of you who once waited for their attention, the one who overlooked their mistreatment, the one who forgave them too easily. They might send a message, expecting you to reply instantly. They might drop subtle hints, hoping to spark a reaction. They might even test the waters with a small gesture, assuming you will still give them access to your heart. But this time, things are different. You no longer react the way you used to. The emotions they once stirred in you, guilt, longing, frustration, no longer have a hold over you. You don't feel the need to justify yourself, to prove your worth, or to chase after them. You have found something far more valuable than their validation, your own inner peace. And when they sense this shift, they begin to panic. Losing control over you means losing power, and for some people, power is everything. They thrived on the fact that they could manipulate your emotions. They felt secure knowing they could make you question yourself, doubt your decisions, or second-guess your worth. Now they are faced with a reality they never expected, a reality where they no longer matter to you in the way they once did. So they try different tactics. They might suddenly act kind, offering the affection or attention they once withheld. But you see through it now. You recognize the cycle, and you refuse to be pulled back into it. They might try to provoke you, doing things to get a reaction, ignoring you, flaunting their new relationships, or making subtle jabs at your growth. But instead of feeling anger or hurt, you feel something even more powerful: indifference. And that is what shakes them the most. Indifference is the ultimate sign that they have lost control. It means their actions no longer affect you. It means you no longer need closure, apologies, or explanations. You have outgrown the version of yourself that was once attached to them. This realization is a blow to their ego. For so long, they relied on your attachment to fuel their own self-importance. But when they see you moving on, thriving, and no longer looking back, They realize they are no longer in control. Not of you, not of your emotions, not of your life. And that is when they truly feel the loss. Because while they were playing games, keeping you at arm's length or taking you for granted, they never stopped to consider what would happen if you actually let go. They never imagined a world where you would stop waiting, stop hoping, stop caring. They assumed you would always be there, trapped in the cycle of their manipulation. But now you are free. You are no longer controlled by their opinions, their presence, or their absence. You have taken back your power, and in doing so, you have become untouchable. They can no longer sway your emotions, no longer dictate your happiness, no longer decide your worth. And while they struggle with the loss of control, you embrace the joy of your own liberation. Because now your focus is no longer on them, it's on you, your growth, your peace, your happiness. And that is the kind of freedom they will never be able to take away again. There comes a time when the people who tried to break you are forced to watch you rise. They once thought they could keep you down, that their absence would leave you lost, that their betrayal would destroy you. But life has a way of turning pain into power, and instead of falling apart, you have used every hardship as fuel for your growth. At first, they don't believe it. They assume your progress is temporary, that you will eventually stumble, that you will come back searching for the comfort of the past. They wait for signs that you still need them, that their influence over you still lingers. But as time passes, something becomes undeniable. You are no longer the same person they once controlled.